Good morning. This is the JP Dinnell podcast, episode 27. I am JP Dinnell, and as always, I have Lucas with me. So it was August of 2003 when I checked in to SEAL Team 3. It was a Friday. Man, it was a beautiful Friday in San Diego, California. We just got done with our SEAL qualification training across the street from where the SEAL teams were, where Buds was. So I remember getting done with that, and I had found out that I was going to be going to SEAL Team 3 Delta Platoon, and I was going to be going there with Seth Stone and another one of the guys, and I just remember like being stoked that I was going to be with Seth. We were going to be in the same platoon. Like I've shared before on this podcast, Seth was my big brother. He was my big brother in the SEAL teams. He was my big brother in life, just in general, just as a, an older man that I looked up to, that I loved, that I cared about, that I knew cared about me, that I knew loved me. And, him and Leif had provided me a lot of guidance and a lot of good, proper direction so far with the limited time that I had been with them. Same with Andrew Paul. The three of us all went through that SEAL qualification training together. And I just remember Leif was going to SEAL Team 5. Seth and I were going to SEAL Team 3 Delta Platoon. And we went across the street together to check into the command. And, we had all the platoon chiefs came across the street to SQT. And when you're graduating, you figure out where you're going. That's when you met your platoon chief, which was pretty awesome. And I remember our first platoon chief. I'm like, all right, cool. Unassuming guy. Like you would look at him and you wouldn't think like he's a Navy SEAL, which most team guys, it's kind of that way. You don't think that they're Navy SEALs. When I was in my first two platoons, I guarantee you nobody's like, I bet that guy's a Navy SEAL. Like nobody was thinking that way looking at me. And, even so to this day, I get that as well. And so I remember looking at my platoon chief and I was like, well, okay, cool. I'm like super fired up to learn from this guy. And man, I'm actually getting into the SEAL teams. I remember how excited I was. And so we're going across the street. And like I said, it's a beautiful, beautiful day in San Diego, California. Like, almost 95% of the days in San Diego they're just beautiful. It was August, a little warm, which was nice. And I remember we go across the street onto that base and we stopped by a little place called the Surf Mart. It's like a little mini mart on base where you could get gas, you can go get snacks and food, and then a few little things in there. And we stop in there and Seth grabs a notebook, and he grabs a notebook for me, and he grabs a few extra notebooks, and he told me, he's like, hey, make sure you keep this with you at all times. You should always have a notebook on you, because there are going to be times that you're going to be in a meeting that you're not going to be able to retain all that information, or there's going to be important information that you need to write down, and you can't have your phone on you in some of the places of the compound over the SEAL team. Like, you just can't have your phone with you. And I just remember like Seth getting these notebooks and him reiterating how it was important that I had a notebook. And he also told me, he's like, hey, when you're sitting down with somebody and you're talking with somebody and you pull out a notebook and you start writing down notes, like that's a good thing. You should do that, because then it helps you stay focused. It's going to help you like repeat that information back to them to get alignment. Seth was an older guy. He had some time and experience in the fleet. He knew the importance of listening and listening with intent and being able to retain information and repeat that information back to people. And so I just remember Seth, explaining these things to me. And at the time, I just turned 19 years old, going a few months prior, in March. So, 6 months prior ish, I'd turned 19, and now I'm checking into the SEAL teams, and I'm like, good Lord, this is crazy. And, no, I'm sorry. I had just turned 20. Yeah, that's right. I just turned 20. Yeah, and I remember just checking in the SEAL team as a new guy. I was 20 years old, and we go into the quarter deck of the SEAL team, and we're sitting there with our platoon chief, and I remember seeing BTF Tony. that Jocko's had on his podcast. He's talked about him. Lace's talked about him. And BTF Tony was at our pinning party. When we got done with SQT, we have a pinning party. And I'll just leave it at that. If you know, you know. If you don't, well, you probably will never know. And I'm good with that. But I remember Tony being there, and I was all excited to see him because I had met him for the first time at the pinning party because he was one of, you call him like a sea daddy, like an older guy in the SEAL teams that takes care and mentors you when you're a new guy. So one of my buddies going through BUDS, his older brother, so one of my buddies in BUDS and SQT, and we checked in SEAL teams together, one of his older brothers had been in the SEAL teams for a long time. And he was over at another command, which was, we hold in very high regards. And he'd been over there for a long time. Well, his sea daddy was Tony Ufrati. So when he was a new guy, Tony brought him up in the SEAL teams. And that's why Tony was at our pinning party, because my buddy's brother was there. And then he invited, team guys that he knew. And one of them was Tony. It used to be a big thing. The pinning party in SQT used to be a real big thing. It was a big culture thing in the SEAL teams. And, and I'm at that command. I'm a new guy. Freaking stupid new guy, man. Because I'm like, all excited to see him. Like, hey, Tony. I was like, hey, it's like, good to see you. You were at my pinning party. And he just looks at me and he's like, off.
Whoa.
Oh, and I was like, oh, check. Okay. And he was like, new guy. I was like, oh, that's right. Yeah, I am a new guy. And it was just that quick, like, yeah, you're a new guy in the SEAL teams, bro. Keep your mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut. Just keep your mouth shut. And I was like, okay, check. I mean, it wasn't told to me. Well, actually, the instructors in SQT were like, hey, the best thing you can do is just keep your mouth shut when you go there. And the first thing I do is like, hey, Tony, good to see you. And this dude
what's up, buddy?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so we're doing our like quarterdeck check-in thing, and they're telling us like, hey, here's the password to this door, and here's the password to this stairwell. And I'm like getting ready to write it down, and Seth is like, don't write that down. I was like, oh, check. He's like, you don't write down passwords. I'm like, yep, got it. And because I'm all excited. I'm like taking everything in. I'm trying to listen and take notes, but it was like, again, Seth just looking over me, being my big brother, like, yeah. Write these things down. Don't write those things down, dummy. And so anyways, we go and so, giving us a tour of the team, like, hey, here's the task unit space. Here's your platoon space. Here's your cages for all the team gear, task unit gear, your gear. Here's your locker. Here's where you're going to put all your gear. Go up into the platoon planning space. And I'm meeting our OIC, officer in charge. There's few, our LPO was in there, leading petty officer, and there's a few other guys or older guys in there, and there was also a few new guys that had, they were 1 or 2 BUDS class ahead of me that they were already in there, and just like meeting these guys. And I remember, so we're doing our check-in thing, and they tell Seth and I, they're like, hey, give us a piece of paper that's like, hey, go to supply and get this gear. On Sunday, you need to be back here at the command because you leave for a 4-week off-road Hummer driving and racing school out in the middle of the desert. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. On the inside, I'm like, this is incredible. 4 weeks out in the middle of the desert at a Humvee driving and racing school.
It's freaking cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I'm like, all right, so I go get that gear, come back, I'm getting all organized and kind of figuring out, okay, how am I going to pack this gear, what gear, just trying to like talk to other guys in the platoon, kind of get some information. Found out one of my buddies, Derek Benson, who I ended up becoming like best friends with, and Derek and I were actually roommates, and I've talked about Derek before. He was going out to that school as well, so meet him, not meet him. We'd already met, already knew who each other were, but just like seeing him out at that school, like, okay, cool, we're going to be there together. And it was awesome. And I remember going out there, and the school was intense. I mean, you're talking 15 to 18 hour days every single day while you're out there. And it's just immediately like, all right, hey, here's a training. here's the intent behind the training. Here's the purpose. This is what we're going to be doing, and just going right into it, like right in the classroom, and then getting out there and messing with the vehicles and learning how to like do basic repairs on them and maintenance, and learning to push them to their limits and learning how to navigate and train navigate while you're driving, and then using the GPS systems that they had, and literally learning how to push those vehicles to their limits of just all the amazing things that you're able to do with them. It was unreal. I mean, it was literally unreal. And it showed me right away, like, hey, we work hard. And I'm not exact. I mean, we're in the middle of the summer in the desert, 15 to 18 hour days. I mean, doing like mission cycle planning where we're planning throughout the night and then going out and executing a drive where you're just packing extra fuel with you and water, just learning how to just do those long drives that you may not ever go over 20 miles an hour, because that's the type of terrain that you're driving through and maneuvering through. Oof. And having to do like dig out stuff and build like little bridges and ladders to get over terrain and through terrain. I mean, it was unreal, my man. And I just remember coming back from that training and just being smoked, but also like just so energized because of how awesome the training was. And I'm back in San Diego, and it was a Friday, and I'm getting all my stuff at the command and, up in the platoon space again, and, just talking with my leadership and figuring, Seth and I are there, and they're like, hey, you guys need to go to supply, get the rest of this gear, because on Sunday we leave for another 4-week trip, and we're going to go out to Mississippi to the top combat shooting school in the world for 2 weeks. And then from there, we're going to drive up to Louisville, Kentucky, and we're going to operate out of the urban training facility up there at Fort Knox. And I was just like, this is unreal. Like, this is absolutely unreal. And so that Friday, I'm switching out all my gear, and I'm trying to pack out my cage and trying to organize my gear and seeing, okay, what gear do I need? And I had a packing list, and which I love. I still do that to this day. Like, I'll actually physically write out a packing list or have it in my phone for when I'm doing bigger trips or even work trips. Like, if I'm going for a week-long work trip, I'll say pants times X amount, shorts times X amount, boxer briefs times X amount, socks, boom, boom. Because when I have those lists, when I have those SOPs, things work out. Like, you create a list for a reason. If you create a list and you pack the list, guess what? You have all the stuff that you need. And if you don't, then you modify and change your list, and you adapt your list, and you adapt your SOPs as needed. But we need to be mindful of checklists and SOPs, because those checklists and those SOPs allow us to stay focused. The discipline of doing those gives us freedom. Discipline equals freedom. Jocko talks about that all the time. We talk about that all the time at Echelon Front. Discipline equals freedom. And when I'm disciplined with my checklist, when I'm disciplined with my standard operating procedures and sticking to those, it gives me freedom. It gives me one less thing I have to think about. It might give me some time freedom, because I'm not having to like, okay, do I have this? Do I have this? Do I have, boom, I pack, check to the list, double check it, boom, we're good to go.
Yeah.
And I just remember learning that when I was in boot camp, and then when I was in my A schooling, and then when I was in BUDS, when I was in SQT, and then when I was in the SEAL teams, was sticking to your checklist, sticking to the SOPs that we have in place, understanding, do you have all the proper gear? Do you have secondary for the gear? Do you have the backup to be able to replace it and or fix it and or modify it? Because that might be something that you have to do. And I just remember, also think about my first 8 weeks in the SEAL teams. My first 8 weeks in the SEAL teams was 100% training. And I'm a 20-year-old new guy. I'm the youngest and the most junior ranking guy in the task unit and the platoon, with these other new guys that are also young and junior ranking as well. And what's the first thing that they do? Send me to training. They send me to a school, a 4-week driving school. And then, boom, we go to this school. We go to this school. And they showed me the value of training and the value that they placed in me as an individual. Hey, we value you. You're important. We're going to train you. We're going to train you to the same level that we're training everybody else. It's none of that, oh, well, you're a new guy, you've got to earn your place around here. Now, there is that aspect that I do find value in. I do think is important, because trust me, I was a new guy in the SEAL teams. I know the value of knowing your role, knowing your place, being humble, working hard, earning your seat at the table, earning your place amongst that team, and proving yourself. I'm all about that. I'm all about working hard and proving yourself. However, I also understand the value that you teach. You teach your guys exactly what they need to be taught. You take care of your people. You train them. You equip them, because your job as a leader is to get your people up to a level that they can take your roles. They can take your job. They can do what they need to be able to do to perform. Because the thing with us in the SEAL teams, I don't want anybody on my team that's just hitting the bare minimums. I want everybody in my platoon operating at the highest level possible. And that's what makes us professionals in the SEAL teams. That's what makes all the Army Rangers and the Green Berets and every Marine that I've ever worked with. That's what makes them professional. The PJs, the combat controllers, every branch, all these different branches I've worked with, all their special force groups that are in the military that I've been able to work with. What makes them good, what makes them professionals, is that they train, they equip, they coach, they mentor, they take care of their people by giving them training, by teaching them, by equipping them. And it doesn't matter if they're young. It doesn't matter if they're brand new. If they're on the team, they're on the team. Because there's the flip side to that, is because most of those young junior new team members are humble, and they understand the value of what they have in front of you. And they also understand the opportunity. When I was a new guy in the SEAL teams, I knew the opportunity I had in front of me. I knew that there was literally tens, if not hundreds of thousands of men all across the world that would have loved to have been in that same position as me. To be 20 years old, living in San Diego, checking into SEAL Team 3. Are you kidding me? And then right away, oh, we're going to send you out to the desert for 4 weeks to go to an off-road Hummer driving and racing school where we actually want you to break these so that we can teach you how to fix them.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Hey, we're also going to take you to the top combat shooting school in the world where you're going to shoot 1,000 rounds a day with your pistol and 1,000 to 2,000 rounds a day of rifle every single day.
Bro, that's absolutely incredible. My shoulder's a little sore from thinking about it, but
it's
other
amazing.
Than that,
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
And that's the other thing. Your thumbs get really strong. That little muscle in your hand gets strong quick by loading all those rounds.
Yeah, no doubt.
If you don't know what I was just doing, you should be on YouTube checking out, watching me loading magazines. But anyway, so that was my initial experience in the SEAL teams of just, wow, the value they placed on me, the value of training, SOPs. I actually have a funny little SOP story from this morning, but I wanted to say good morning to you.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
How are you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, and I think I need your help in convincing Kirsten of something.
Okay.
Right? So for the last couple of years, we've been reevaluating our vehicle situation. Right? So she's we had Levi, and now Scotty's on the way. We're at the, he's going to drop and it's going to be an any day now kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. So I used to have, right before, because when Kirsten and I met and started dating, I was like, she's the one. There's no two ways about this. And I told her, because I'm a jerk, I was like, listen.
I think I know where you're going with this.
For the first 90 days, right, that we're dating, if I just want you to know, we can make attachments, all those kinds of things. But if we make it past 3 months, then I'll bring you in on decisions. But until then, you don't have any say in the things that I do. That's what I said, because I was a jerk. I was in my early 30s. I dated a lot, and there was a lot of that was one of the tests that I knew that if a girl was telling me early on hey, you can't do this, then I'm out. Right?
Okay, I see.
Right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that was me being preemptive, but also a jerk, and now that is definitely not the case, right?
Well,
I wanted to get the 75 Hard app, which is $7, and I'm like, hey, honey, it's the coolest. Are we good for me to spend $7 on this? We've got the money in the account, all that, but it's just maintaining alignment all the way through.
Mutual
right?
Respect.
Absolutely.
And alignment.
Yep. So I bought a brand new 2019 Camaro 2SS with a supercharger on it. It had 655 horsepower a week before we hit 90 days. And I just sent her a picture of it, and she sends me back a little thing that says cool. So we were all good, kept the car for a couple of years, traded it in, so that we could get a family car, right? So I traded it in. They gave me it was because used car stuff was insane. I got a little bit more than what I paid for it. So my truck that we got all paid off, she's got a car now. Yeah. Yeah, so I've got a little Colorado. It had like 200,000 miles on it, but the last one I had kept
Those are
till it
great
had
trucks.
the last one I'd kept alive till I had like 360,000 miles on it, and that's what I traded in for the Camaro. So anyway, I digress. She gets a Suburban, and she loves it. We got a friend who owns a dealership, and he hooked us up. We were able to get it. So she's like, "Hey, what do you want your next car to be?" So I've been seeing these military auctions where there's these Humvees that have essentially just sat on like either bases or on different posts here in the U.S. that are very reasonably priced. And she's like, "That's not enough space. How are you going to learn how to drive it?" I was like, I know somebody who went to a tactical training school for this, and I might need you to help convince, kind of push Kirsten over the edge. Like, you know what? A Humvee is exactly a decommissioned military Humvee is exactly what your husband needs for his daily driver. So if you could help me with that, I would love it.
Okay.
You texting her right now? Just sending it out. Hey, I can teach him everything. The other thing is the biodiesel conversions for that are actually not that bad. And you can basically just run the diesel off of fat. Now, I know it's another few $1,000s to get all that done, but with the amount of little cattle co beef and the extra stuff that I've got going on there, I'll just take that old skillet and just dump it right in the gas tank.
Oh, that's crazy.
And get it running.
I will say that they are amazing vehicles. I mean, not great for gas mileage.
Sure.
However,
Yeah.
something goes down,
It pops off.
that vehicle is getting you wherever you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's very unique that you said that, because I've been thinking about the same thing, about how it would be good to have one.
Yeah. She was like, "How are we going to afford it?" I was like, I will sell a motorcycle. If you give me the okay on a Humvee, one of those Harleys is gone immediately.
If I had a Harley to sell to buy a Humvee, the Harley would have been sold.
Yeah. Yeah. So now that's this is the next sticking point. She's like, "All right, well, if that's it." I was like, "Yeah. Yep." I'm going to keep at least one though, because if you listen to the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu podcast, you know that I'm built like a messenger boy. So if anything happens and I need to just throw on my European carry-all and run letters to the front line from General Patton, I want to make sure that I got a vehicle to do it.
From General Jocko.
Yes. Boy, that'd be something. I'd be in Jocko's army, I think. I think I'd be okay with that. I don't know if the reason I say I think is because I don't know if I would qualify. I would qualify only on a Jacksonian premise that I know people that know him.
That's not true.
All right, dude, I got so many questions about the story you just told.
Logistics wins wars, I'm just going to say.
Okay, very true.
I mean, and so you're joking with that comment, but that's
Right.
also a very valid point to that.
Yeah.
And that's actually, you and I have talked about this, and I know this wasn't obviously what you're saying, but
Right.
I really do not like when I meet other service members and they say, "I wasn't a SEAL, I just did this." And I'm like,
Yeah.
bro or sister, like whoever, guy or girl, whoever it is, I'm like, your service is your service. Be proud of that. And it's all the same. And they're like, "Well, no." And I'm like, no. Service is service. To me, it's equal. Like, we all signed the dotted line. We all knew the risk in front of us, and we chose to do what we liked, what we thrived in, what we enjoyed. There are jobs in the military that I am not smart enough to do. I know that right now. And I know I'm not dumb. Like, I know I'm smart,
Right.
but I know I am not smart enough to do there are jobs out there that I'm like, nope, couldn't do it.
Neither one of us are Dave Burke.
That's a factual statement, right?
Yeah.
Johnny Kim or Carlos Mendez or
Right.
Cody. It's like, I just, couldn't do it. But there's also jobs that I wouldn't want to do, that I have zero desire to do. And there are people in the military that love doing that stuff.
Yep.
And you know what? Thank you. Literally, thank you for your service. Thank you for doing the admin, logistics, supply, like the work that doesn't get credit, because That's what wins wars. Because if we don't have our fuel, if we don't have our equipment, if we don't have our gear, if we don't have all those things, then we, the gunfighters, don't get to go overseas and do what we do. If we can't get overseas, how can we go fight?
You can't.
Yeah. So the people that do all the administrative paperwork to make sure that I get paid while I'm in the military, and I get my jump pay and my dive pay, and I get my per diem from trips. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you to the supply officer who's dealing with the supply inventory for a full SEAL team. All the boots, all the pants, the blouses, all the gear, the socks, all those things that we need. Somebody's running those spreadsheets. Somebody's having to go do an inventory. Somebody's actually having to bid on that gear and get the gear and think, hey, what's the budget? What's our budget need to be in 3 years from now?
Yep.
With growth. I'm not thinking about that. My platoon chief's not thinking about that. Our command is not probably thinking about that.
Not according to Colonel Hackworth.
He is a great example of there are great humans that have legitimate flaws.
Yeah.
Because
I love.
Imagine the influence he could have had if he would have just learned to keep his mouth shut once in a while. Like Trump.
Yeah, it's one of those for me though. Like with him, it's kind of the dual-edged sword. It's like imagine the influence he could have had if he would have kept his mouth shut. But on the other side, yeah, right. Because there's that thing where we've talked about this before in leadership, where you have to weigh: is it better for me to leave the company or to try and influence it from within? And he did a ton to influence it from within. But man, he got to a spot where how would you say it? The establishment was no longer something that was going to be able to hold him in it. You were talking about all of the people that do the logistics and stuff. There's a show out it recently just aired its last episode called Masters of the Air, based on the book Masters of the Air, and then based on another book by, I forget the name of it, but it's by Harry Crosby, who was a navigator. He was a navigator for the Bloody 100th, the B-17 bombing group. And
my grandfather flew those.
Oh, right on,
yes.
Dude. Okay, so he probably a lot of this stuff may cross over. The show is incredible. It's so good. It's made by the same people that did. It's Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg who did The Pacific. They did Saving Private Ryan.
Were those good movies and series? I don't remember.
Not too shabby, right? Band of Brothers was another one of theirs.
Rings a bell.
So it's stellar. It's absolutely just incredibly well done. So Harry Crosby was the navigator. He ends up staying up for like 3 days. He's also the navigator who planned all of the paths for D-Day, is who this guy is. So he's this stellar dude. So after the war in Europe is essentially won, the B-17 bombers go and they're doing humanitarian missions. Mm-hmm. So this is the first time he's been up in a plane since like the third mission that he flew. And they take a mechanic with him. And the mechanic, who's like the lead mechanic at this base, they're like, hey, he's like, can I go up? And so, yep. And they put him in one of the gunner seats, and he's freaking out. And they're like, what's this? He's like, I've never been in an airplane before. Like, hold on. You've been working on these airplanes. You're the head mechanic, and he's like 22, 23. Head mechanic that has kept the B-17s
dang
going,
millennials.
Right? And exactly. Right? And he was like, yeah, no, they sent us over on a ship, taught us how to work on airplanes. I've never flown on an airplane before. And so he got to go on one of the humanitarian missions on like the last one that they flew. It's the very first time he'd ever been on an airplane. He'd worked on them for like 4 years.
Imagine how much different that guy would have taken his job, or maybe more serious he would have taken his job had they put him in the plane at first.
Maybe so. Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I guarantee you would have changed his perspective on how he did his job.
Yep.
For the better. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Not that
he wasn't doing a good job. He was obviously doing a phenomenal job, but you want to make your people, sorry, not make. That's a bad. If you want to be able to drive your people to the next level by allowing them to see things at a different level, like give them ownership, give them a new perspective, allow them to go be a little. That's what we would do in Tasking and Bruiser, and that's what I did when I was at Trade It, and we'd have people come out to the ranges with us and be like, hey, come shoot this gear, come try out the gear, because people would have their good ideas on what gear we should be using. You're like, hey, hold on, when's the last time you deployed overseas? You know what I mean? Because you'd have guys in these positions that, were just, at training, and you're like, all right, cool, that's good to be at training. But then when you stay there and you stay there and you stay there and you stay there, and you're just like using all your time to run marathons and do other stuff other than actually being at war and fighting the war, like your perspective on what's needed overseas goes away really quick.
Oh, for sure.
Because the gear that I used on my first deployment versus my third deployment, night and day difference. Leif and I were,
Really?
Bro, I will find pictures and show you night and day complete difference.
Was it?
I look at the gear for my first deployment and I'm like, that looks horrible. Like it just, things innovate and adapt. They get better. They get better. Think about, like, you look at a vehicle from 4 years ago. Like, you go drive a 2024 Chevy Silverado, and then you drive a 2020 Silverado. They're both very nice vehicles.
Right.
You drive that 2024 first, and you go get in that 2020, you're going to be like,
why does it have all the masks in it?
Yeah. This guy drove by himself wearing a mask.
Why is he doing that? That's so strange.
It's amazing. So that's just a 4 year. So if you go an 8 year difference.
Oh, that's tremendous, right?
Well, same thing. Like same thing with the gear. So the war first kicked off in 2003, big, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my first deployment, we went over. I checked in as a new guy in 2003. So think about the gear that I had was in 2003. It'd been around for a year or two. None of it was new. So I had this gear from 2001, 2002, 2003. Some of the gear that I had from SQT, which was older, and then all of a sudden I deploy in. At the end of 2004, come back in 2005, we do our workup, we get newer gear, kind of different gear, deploy in 2006, and the gear for between those two deployments were different. And then I go to training, and we're at the training cell, and I'm there for a couple of years, and then I deploy in 2009, 2010 time frame. You're talking 7, almost 8 years of difference of gear. I'm saying, like, when I say it was like night and day, it was night and day.
Well, and then you got to think too, like the type of gear that you need now changes, right? And this is one of the things that I don't think people often consider, especially when we look at things like what the military budget is and that kind of stuff. Is that, if you were to just take World War I, right? Because, and I use World War I because it's the most drastic change in technology happened in World War I. Where you had guys in, 50 years earlier in the Civil War were fighting with muskets where they had to load one ball at a time and light a flint and all of that.
Crazy.
And that there were these bayonet charges and all of this stuff. Well, World War I, you have, German soldiers in pillboxes that are firing machine guns. And particularly in the first few battles with the French, when they're trying to do the Napoleonic bayonet charge, like one guy with a machine gun is mowing down thousands of troops. Yeah, and they're not even making it over, the hump of a trench before they're being completely taken out. So there's these vast changes, and that just happened in a pretty short period of time. Well, so the type of war that you're fighting, has to change. The gear and the loadout and stuff, but also the type of missions, because the type of missions that, particularly what you guys have talked about the SEALs doing in the beginning, the capture missions versus what y'all were doing in Ramadi, were they can't even be compared to one another in like the gear and the loadout and stuff that's needed.
Yeah.
So like what was that transition like for you? Moving from one gear set to a next, because I don't like new shoes, right? Like this is a weird thing for me. Like if there's a pair of shoes that I like, then I'll wear them until they wear out, right? Like I like the Brooks shoes are one of my favorites. So I'll use them until that shoe is done, that pair of shoes is done, and then I'll get the same one and whatever colors are available. Typically, if it's like a black or a gray or something like that, I'll do that. And then instead of the 6, I'll get the 7 if that's available. But if they're like, oh, we discontinued this, I'm like, all right, well, then I'll try a completely different type of shoe. I don't want to see what improvements and stuff you made. I'm creature habit in that way.
Okay.
What's that like with your loadout? Because that seems significantly different than just, hey, is this comfortable? Isn't this comfortable? Everything about the gear changes.
Yeah, well, the gear is changing for the most part to be better, to be less bulky, to be more efficient, more effective. That's usually what happens when you get these gear changes,
Right.
And that's why I was saying though, like there's some guys at training that would be part of gear acquisitions, and you're like, bro, you haven't deployed in 8 years, and the one deployment you basically did nothing, and then you got sent home early. Like, you don't, like, why are you trying to like tell us what type of gear we need?
Right.
And so I will say the SEAL teams did get better and realize like, hey, we should probably have like the guys that are out there doing it test and evaluate their own gear. And so some guys,
novel.
yeah, I know, unique idea. And so there was also this drive from our leadership. They'd be like, yeah, we change out these new weapons. We got this new thing. And guys are like, cool. Well, let's go shoot them before we just, sign the contract. Let's shoot these, let's test them. Not them. Like, let's put them through the ringer.
Yeah.
And
what happens if this thing gets full of sand?
Yeah. And what's going to happen when we put, 1,200 rounds through it almost nonstop, like obviously with little breaks while you're moving, but let's simulate a legit hellacious gunfight where the machine gunner, you have malfunctions at 200 rounds. Well, that's not good because the box of ammo holds 200 rounds. And so we were
and like, how many rounds a minute can those things shoot?
I don't know, a lot.
Yeah,
I should know that number still. I don't.
Well,
I don't.
There was one, I think, in particular.
Hey, if you're on YouTube, let us know.
There was one machine gun they were talking about that shoots like 700 rounds a minute. Well, if you're getting a jam every 200 rounds, you're 20 seconds in, and now all of a sudden your covering fire now has you right in the middle of a zone where you just endangered your life because somebody gave you a malfunctioning piece of equipment.
Yeah, which is not ideal. And that happened. And guys, like I said, in our community got smart. Leadership got smart, and they're like, hey, let's try these things out. Let's put them through the ringer. Like, hey, the gear that we're getting. Hey, these boots that we're getting. Let's let the guys try them out. Let's let them use them during the hardest block of training and see how well they hold up.
Yeah.
If a pair of boots can hold up during a full land warfare block of training, bro, they're going to be good to go.
Yeah.
Let's not use them while you're walking around San Diego around the compound and be like, oh, they're comfortable.
Hanging out in the gaslight district.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You might, but I wouldn't. It's just so it's one of those things where you just want to make sure that you're putting the test. That you're putting your gear through a test. And it goes back to what we talk about in regards to making small iterative decisions.
Right.
You're not making this big commitment. You're not being emotional. You're being logical with your decision making.
Right.
And, and so that's something that the teams got really good at. And it was cool to see that evolution. But in regards to your question, what was like changing the gear? I mean, for the most part, it was like, ooh, this is cool. Like, sexy new gear. That was the thing, sexy new gear, because the gear was getting a little cooler, a little slicker, a little bit better. And it also did change based off of what we were doing overseas, and things were starting to shift and transition. But I will say, like, one of the mindsets of victory that we teach at Echelon Front is innovate and adapt, and also being default aggressive. And I feel like those tie in together, because if you're being default aggressive to adapt and change, you're going to stay ahead. You're going to win.
100%.
Like you have to do those two together.
Yeah.
But with innovate and adapt, you have to truly have an open mind, not just like, well, hey, I'm willing to change if it's my idea. Are you willing to change and try new things and have an open mind? That's what we need to be focused on. And that's what I'll say, for the most part, the SEAL teams did a really good job at, is like, hey guys, we got this new gear. Let's test it out. Let's see if it works. If it works, cool. If not, like, boom. Now, of course, there's always like the backdoor buddy deals. Like, hey, this is my buddy's new gear company. And, you're going to freaking, they get that contract because they know somebody on the inside. That happens in every organization.
Yeah.
And then it's like, cool, this gear was good. I'm glad we did that because they had inside information in regards to like what we use and how we use things.
Yeah.
Like, you want those things. Like, you want to buy from companies that have quote inside information because guess what? They're making the gear that works for what you need, not for what they think it should be like.
Joel's making some gear that we need right now.
Yeah, dude.
Zero mark.
Dude.
100%. After seeing all of the new stuff about the drone attacks, it makes me so much happier that he came on the show. And like, as I'm tagging him and stuff or posting things, getting responses from him is that's one of the things that like is coolest for me, is that this is a guy who's developing some of the most insane gear on the planet, and getting those messages and stuff from him. All right, so I've got a couple of culture questions for you. You mentioned the pinning ceremony and stuff that has to do with SEAL culture. So, and then I've got a personnel question because there's another guy that you mentioned that I want to know about. So you're friends with a guy named Andy Stump.
Yes.
So I'm curious, are you kind of up to date on some of his recent things? So if you don't know the situation, Sean Strickland came out and issued this insane challenge. He was like, I'm so tired of listening to Navy SEALs. If any Navy SEAL wants to come to one of my fight camps, you guys can, and blah, blah, blah. And I'll tear you up.
And didn't he say like we wouldn't be able to last a day doing his training?
He did. That's what he said. So then a SEAL named Jimmy Watson responds to that and is like, bro, it's not the same thing. Right? Like, maybe we wouldn't last a day doing your training. Maybe if we got in the ring with you, you would knock us out. And he was like,
Sean Strickland would 100% knock us out in the ring. But you're talking.
So Jimmy Watson goes on this thing and he's like, hey, it's not the same thing. And then he went and kind of pushed a little far and was like, the training you're doing is to knock people out. And he's like, dude, we took people's souls. Like, we had to, we killed folks.
Yeah.
Andy's on a podcast. Andy hears that, and Andy's like, listen, that's not how we should be talking. He goes on a little bit of a rant and got some facts that were a little mixed up about the guy and just sort of like shuts him down. A couple of days later, Andy puts out a video where he says, hey, listen, I want to apologize to Jimmy Watson. There were some things that I said that weren't true, and I've come to find those out. I had some bad information on who he was. I didn't identify him properly. Second, if that's the way he wants to respond to things, like, that's his prerogative. And I just want to, the comments that I made were public. Now I want to make sure that this apology is public. We're actually working out to maybe get Jimmy on the show so that we can talk about some things, which is immediately followed up by a video from Jimmy that was like, hey, Andy, saw your video. Thanks so much, man. There's a lot of stuff that, I would love to chat with you about. Let's make it happen. So the thing that's kind of blowing everybody away is that there was a fierce disagreement and judgment. Andy owns it, apologizes, comes back, and him and Jimmy are cool. And so the internet's sort of like, well,
they don't know how to handle that.
Yeah, they were like, I thought they hated each other. But this is pretty. This is like kind of a common thing among not just like friendships between men, but particularly among SEALs, where there's this sort of deal. So talk to us a little bit about like those types of bits in the SEAL culture and the relationships.
Well, yeah, most guys in the SEAL teams are pretty passionate, driven individuals, and they're very quick to give you your opinion, which is good and can be bad. So there's a balance that needs to be had. Andy Stump is a great example of a good leader. Andy Stump is a great example of being humble. Andy Stump is a great example of somebody who said something that was wrong because he had the wrong information, or maybe he was slightly emotional when he said those things. I don't know. I'm just assuming that could be a slight possibility. However, he owned it. He apologized. He corrected it. And I feel like he rectified it. That's what we should be striving to do as humans.
Yeah.
And Andy Stump is a great representation of the SEAL teams. He's a great representation of SEAL teams. He's a fit dude. He's he's fit and athletic.
Pretty fit.
Yeah. Badass brown belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
He's a legit gunfighter, still trains, can run circles on, I would say, 99% of the people out there that shoot. Right. He would run circles around them on the range. He's very intelligent.
Yeah.
He's very well spoken. He's also business intelligent, meaning he has legit business knowledge and backgrounds for building brands and building up businesses. I mean, the guy is he's a great representation of the SEAL teams. Had legit combat experience.
Yeah.
And I can't wait until we can have him on the podcast so that he can share what he wants to share. I'm very protective of sharing what guys have done, even if it's public knowledge. Right. I mean, you can figure out what you want to figure out about Andy. I'm not going to share it because I know what he did and who he was a part of.
Yeah.
And I have the utmost respect for him and those guys. I mean, those guys are freaking guys like Shipley. I don't know if you follow Shipley on Instagram. Mm-mm. You should. I'll send you his stuff.
Okay.
The guy freaking is a phenom of a human and another great representation of the SEAL teams. But anyways, so Andy handled it in a professional manner. Wow. Who would have thought about handling something in a professional manner, taking ownership, apologizing, and creating a solution to the problem?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so awesome.
Well, it's so weird to me that in particular, more than probably any other branch of the military, any other group in the military, the Navy SEALs have found an audience amongst a lot of people on the internet with Jocko and Leif, with Andy Stumpf, with Marcus Luttrell. We obviously are tapping into some of that same audience and that type of thing, and there are others who are doing the same thing that I haven't mentioned, and what we're seeing is that there's kind of this weird desire, I think, to find chips in the armor. That people want to be like, oh, well, can these guys be pitted against one another? Or, is this group legit? Or which SEAL team is the best SEAL team? And all these things back and forth that they're trying to find ways in order to get sort of SEALs in a feud. And I really think on this podcast where Andy was shown this Sean Strickland video and then Jimmy Watson's response, it was almost like he was in a way they were trying to set it up to be like, hey, you know what? Do you want to almost they're prodding him to say something.
They were baiting him.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
And even though the guy whose podcast he was on was a friend and he was wanting to get a reaction, you don't do those kind of things, bombard somebody on air with something where we're like, hey, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
Right. And it's one of your brothers that you're trying to do stuff about.
It's crazy, man. There's an individual out there that there are a lot of guys in our community that they don't like. And, I was talking with one of my buddies about him, and my buddy goes, love him or hate him, he's still one of us. And I was like, all right, yeah, you're right. And it was just a casual comment. Mm-hmm. And, whether you like him or not, he's still one of us. And it is what it is. And it was just a very good reminder of just don't get sucked into that stuff.
Yeah.
Just don't get sucked into it. And, and what Andy did to apologize and rectify, I think that's incredible. And that's such a major just life lesson for us as humans, just to quickly be like, hey, you know what? Hey, I screwed up. I'm sorry. No factor.
Yeah.
Hey, this is what I'm going to do to make things better. So I thought that was pretty cool.
How much do you think the fighting spirit, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, or a lot of people refer to it as the warrior gene, how much does that lend itself to being, to making somebody able to apologize? And I say because when I was growing up, my brothers and I got into a lot of altercations, right? like we were all pretty close in age. We had similar interests. We, fought over anything we could fight over, whether it was to prove ourselves to one another or, what started off as like, hey, I learned this cool new move in wrestling today. And then the next thing we know, like, that no longer are we drilling the takedown, but like we're coming to blows because like I didn't like the way he ankle picked me or whatever.
Yeah.
So when we look at that, like there is a reluctance to apologize among a lot of people who have never been in those kind of situations. Like, oh, I wasn't wrong or whatever. We were taught those lessons by our parents. What I see in the SEAL community as an outsider is that there are a lot of these same types of things where like brothers, you guys will get into it over things, but it also seems like just like brothers who have good leaders or good parents, that y'all are all pretty quick to be like, hey, look, yeah, we got into it over this. There was a little bit of a scrap over this, but at the end of the day, I was in the wrong here. He was in the wrong there. We worked it out and things are good.
Yeah, there's a good amount of guys in our community that just don't like each other. But at the end of the day, our thing is being a professional.
Yeah.
Be a professional. It's not that hard. So if I didn't personally like you, it doesn't mean I can't work with you. Because if I'm being a professional and I'm being a good leader and I'm being humble, I'm going to set my personal feelings aside and realize like I don't let those things dictate how I treat you. I don't let my ego dictate how I treat you because we're on the same team, one fight. And if I allow my ego to create that separation, then I'm actually doing a disservice to my team. And so I have to understand that that's an attack and I need to separate those things and I need to remain professional with you in regards to getting the work done. And there's guys that I knew in the teams that hated each other. We're in the same platoon and hated each other, but they still worked together and they worked well. When it came time doing the work, they got the work done. We had guys like that in our platoon. We had two guys that just could not stand each other. But from the outside, nobody knew. Like we knew.
Yeah.
But nobody else knew. And that's the way it should be.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So my personnel question that I have.
Okay.
All right. So I said I had a culture question. Now I got my personnel question. There is a guy who's a former SEAL.
Okay.
And he is running like hundreds of miles a day.
David Goggins?
No.
Oh.
No.
A different SEAL.
Yeah.
Chad. Right.
He's working on a 100-mile run, I think. It is Andrew Paul.
Oh, I was like,
yeah.
What are you talking?
Yeah, no, Andrew Paul. He's been posting some stuff. He's been running around San Diego. He's working on he just around the time that you guys were doing some muster stuff, he had mapped his run around San Diego. He had a little bit of an injury. You were talking about guys that like when you see them, after they finish SQT, when they become SEALs, that you'd be like, no, you're not a Navy SEAL. When I saw Andrew Paul at the muster, I was like, bro, this guy, I have no idea why he's going to be here, but he's wearing the Echelon Front gear. They gave him a microphone. This is going to be awesome. He was like, I used to be a Navy SEAL. And I was like, I believe you only because of the people that you're associated with, not because anything you just said makes sense. Because he doesn't, in the same way that like you and Jocko and Leif look in what I think the cultural imaginary has is like, this is what a Navy SEAL is that they're big, they're buff dudes, they're jiu-jitsu practitioners, they're unbelievably intelligent, incredible athletes. And Andrew Paul comes out and he just looks like a guy that might walk through visiting my church one Sunday, just a regular dude, and starts talking about stuff. And I was like, holy smokes. Yeah. Like, not only is this guy an incredibly well-respected veteran within the community and absolutely brilliant, but he is not at all what I was thinking of when I thought of Navy SEAL. So what was SQT like with Andrew? And talk to us a little bit about Andrew and some of the stuff that he's getting to at Echelon Front, because he's one of those that I think is, for me, and no offense, because Andrew Paul's a way better athlete than I will ever hope to be, but one of those.
No, I know you're not saying it in an offensive manner.
I just want to make sure that our audience knows, like, No.
No.
And Andrew Paul would smoke me on any day of the week. But it's one of those, like, you see him and he's like, I was a Navy SEAL. And I'm like, okay, well, that's cute.
Yeah.
But no, like, he's absolutely 100% legit. It's so cool.
So going through SQT with Andrew, Seth, and Leif, it was awesome. They're good leaders, you know, and Andrew, like you said, is incredibly brilliant.
Yeah.
Sometimes too smart. And he actually knows that's one of his not issues, but I say one of the things that he has to work through is making sure he's able to simplify his messages and his communication to other people because he is so intelligent. He is brilliant. You know, when he was in the SEAL teams, he started his mortgage business.
Yeah, he looks like somebody that would have a mortgage business.
Dude, yeah. Well, he's who we got our home loan from. So if you're listening and you need like a really good VA home loan, nobody can touch what Andrew does. I'm telling you right now. Leif was working with one of the top realtors down in the area where he is looking to move, and working with one of the top like mortgage teams, literally the top in the nation, according to like whatever they were looking
all the
for.
rankings and all that stuff.
It had all like, you know, all these referrals and everything else. And Jocko was talking to Leif. He's like, hey, you should have Andrew, you know, like take a look at it.
Just run the numbers.
And he was just like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, but I got this really, really good deal. And he didn't want to waste Andrew's time and, you know, be rude.
Sure.
And Jocko's like, you should probably talk to Andrew about that. And so Leif was like, all right. So he talks to Andrew. Andrew comes back with a deal that Leif's like, how did you do that? Brings it back to who he has. And it was so much of a difference that they were like, I don't know how they did that. That's incredible. You should definitely use that. Like, to the point where the other person had no rebuttal back.
Because he's Navy SEAling the mortgage industry.
Yeah. Oh, weird. When you build really good relationships and you treat people with respect and you listen when people are talking.
That
and
sounds like a bad plan.
One team, one fight mentality with all the people that you work in. I mean, you heard us talk at the muster about building relationships with the other departments that most people are like, oh, I've got to deal with these people in my business. And he's like, actually, I get to work with them. I get to build a relationship. And he builds these relationships, and weird, he doesn't have issues with his deals being put through. He doesn't have issues like getting people. It's just comical. Yeah. So anyways, he killed it on our mortgage. Absolutely killed it. And it was one of the easiest experiences I've ever dealt with in my life when it comes to business and money. Because usually people, that's the worst thing is dealing the mortgage side, the finance side is a nightmare. I'm telling you, it was such a good, easy, painless process that I'm like, if I could go buy something else right now as an investment, I would do it just so that I could work with Andrew and his team.
That's awesome. Dude.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And you know, what's cool is the customer service that he provides. Again, going back to what he knows to do in the SEAL teams, building relationships, providing value above and beyond what anybody else is going to do. I mean, the amount of emails that we get with value is incredible.
Right.
Like just, I mean, updates on our area, updates on our appraisal, updates on the economy, updates on finance, updates, like all these things. And he even he told me something that even a lot of people that do VA loans, they didn't know about that. Like the amount of my buddies that have VA loans that didn't know you could do this, he provides it. And he told me, he's like, hey, if at any point the rates drop and they drop significantly enough to where you're like, oh, I wish I had that. He goes, call me. If I don't catch it, you call me. He goes, but usually I catch it and I'll be calling you. And I'm like, of course you would.
Yeah,
right?
naturally.
You freaking look the brains on Brad. Yeah. I love your psychopathness for money and finance.
Right.
But to the point where it's like, oh man, this would be a game change where it'd be where he goes through the VA home loans I have it set up where Lucas, this is crazy. All I have to do is sign one paper and it's an instant change to that rate. No refi, no inspection, none of that. Now it's a one-time thing, so you don't want to waste it.
Right.
But dude, if it drops let's say it dropped 2 points.
Done.
I literally date this one piece of paper. He gets it whatever, notarized, done that day. My rate automatically changes to that, and then it stays there.
That's too cool.
And then if it ever drops below that, all I'd have to do is a refi.
Right.
And so, which obviously there's a process to that, but dude, like,
It sounds like a pretty easy process if Andrew's taking care of it.
which I would be like, cool, like,
Yeah.
just tell me where to sign. I wouldn't have to do anything. So yeah,
He'll
Andrew,
literally just run because he can run that far. He'll just run your
would.
contract to you.
So yeah, Andrew, when you look at him, like most of us, when I was a new guy, like I told you, when I was a new
I've
guy, in
seen
the
some
SEAL
pictures
teams,
of you when you were.
You're not
when you were
you're
a
not like, oh,
20-year-old.
that's a SEAL.
Yeah.
Like there's no way. Now, it's
You look like an in shape surfer, right? Like that. That's kind of the. What are you like? 175, 180 pounds in some of those pictures.
no, like 145.
Okay, you're like 145 in some of those. 145?
I went through Buzz at 140. I'm 100.
No way.
I'm 102 pounds heavier than I was at Bud's.
Well, you carry it well.
I'm 242 right now.
Wow.
I know it's not good.
I mean, you're strong and you're moving from a purple belt to a brown belt pretty soon. It
I
sounds like.
guarantee you that's not happening.
Well, I don't know. Your wager with Josh was that you'd get it first.
No, he would.
Oh, that he would?
Yeah, he will get his before I do.
Oh, see, I thought it was the opposite.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then I just misunderstood that. But yeah, it's one of those things, man, where we have this idea probably more from cinema than reality.
Yep, 100%. 100%.
Of that, commandos are they're Carl Weathers and they're Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they are at their leanest, they're Charlie Sheen from Navy SEALs.
Which such an incredible movie.
Never seen it. Seriously, I've never seen it. I didn't even know that movie existed until I met you. In all actuality, I know. There's other movies that I have seen, but well, this has been the JP Dinnell podcast.
If you're watching on YouTube, I
just took
if
his
you're not
headphones
watching
off.
on YouTube, I took my
Yeah.
headphones on off
Just
and acted like I was
walking away.
Walking away.
Yeah, no, I've never seen it. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
But I mean, it
We'll
was
fix that.
it was an early '90s flick, right? And I was in the early '90s. To be fair, a little bit more interested in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1 and 2 than I was in anything that had to do with Charlie Sheen.
I also watched those.
Yeah. Well, I'm working my way through it. Navy SEALs is on the list of my my 2024 movies to watch. But unlike some of our other friends, I have seen, Lone Survivor, American Sniper, read the books,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, right?
So, all right. There's your check and
Yeah, I'm not
balance.
like an anathema, right?
You're gonna have to explain that word.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, just
Myself and
completely,
a lot of people.
completely apostate and like walked away from all things good and holy. Yeah, that's what it
okay.
is. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
I was like, that's a big word. I'm gonna have to look up later after the show. However, you know what? I'm just gonna ask right now and get some
Yeah.
clarification.
Yeah, there you
All
go.
right. So yeah, and what's cool is Andrew, is running these races and he'll run 50-mile races and you're like, why? Why would you do that? And I joke because I think it's cool. He'll do that, and
Yeah.
he'll has like racing teams or running teams that he's a part of. And they'll go do awesome training, and and I think he's training for a 100-mile race coming up.
Yeah,
And
according to his Facebook, that's the next thing. And he's got a public figure page on Facebook. He is one of the most encouraging people you can follow on Facebook. His posts are great. They're super uplifting. Even that he has the same type of inspiration for me that I get from Cody Gandy, which is a little bit of like self-shame on top of the like, I can never do that, but I should probably get off my butt and do something.
That's amazing.
And strong believer too, man. His stuff, like I said, his posts and things are encouraging all the way around. Having heard him at the muster was phenomenal, and getting to see, that just really is the kind of dude that he is. Has been really cool over the last few months. Yeah, he's one of the figures from Echelon Front's leadership cadre that like really fascinated me whenever he went up and did his talk, because he just like right now he's just a dad, right?
Yeah.
He's a former Navy. Is he former or is he retired? Because was he an officer?
He was an officer, but he was also in the reserves.
Oh, okay, right on.
And I think he might still be in the reserves.
I see former is what he's got on on his thing.
Yeah.
Yep. So former Navy SEAL, but he's a dad, and he looks like he just looks like a dad and a regular dude. But you start seeing the stuff that he's doing, you listen to him talk, and you're like, this dude is an absolutely incredible human being in every aspect. I think this is so cool.
Well, what's also cool is it just shows you what we know in jiu-jitsu. Like, you don't judge a book by its cover.
Now I'm learning that.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys that are in
with
jiu-jitsu
Josh's kid
that
and got
you're
my
just
butt
like, oh, that's amazing. I can't relate, but that's amazing. But it's just like there's guys at our jiu-jitsu gym that if you were to judge that book by its cover, you'd be like,
yeah,
and like, oh, look at this short little guy, and then
or Joao, right?
Oh, dude,
like he's not from a place of like, if you're looking at a lineup of people, you're like, all right, there's a guy. He's probably what 5'5", maybe.
Joao is like 5'8".
Okay, so he's around my height.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, and he's athletic, but
but he also, you're like, all right, well, like maybe, like if he's standing next to you or Isaac, I'm thinking, all right, maybe or let's have the lineup. If you, somebody about Echo size and Joao, I'm probably like, all right, if I got to try to take somebody.
Oh, you're picking Joao all day long.
But
and then
the truth is, you're probably the safest bet of that group. If it was a one-on-one altercation.
No weapons involved?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no weapons involved. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is...
And that's why I always joke with Joao, guys like that. I'm like, you're why I carry.
No doubt.
Someone like Isaac, you're why I carry.
Yeah.
Isaac gets his grips on you.
It's over. Yeah.
I know when I roll with Isaac, he's being nice to me so that he doesn't injure me more than I'm injured.
Yeah.
I factually know that.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know who Joao is, he is a very accomplished black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu who
was
Andrew
very
Paul,
highly ranked
Yeah.
as a brown belt, like multiple championships and like just rankings and accomplishments as a brown belt all around the world.
Yeah.
And then moved here to he moved here as a purple belt. I remember we were both purple belts together. And that's how fast he's grown. I was a purple belt. He was a purple belt. And then he gets his brown. And now he's a black. And he's just crushing it.
Yeah, he's an absolute monster. Yeah, so he works out at the Fitness Connection that I go to where I do some cardio and sit in the sauna.
Yeah.
And because that's just my life these days.
For now.
Yeah, I mean, for now. Probably for permanently.
I'm
going to be on the Andrew Paul program where I just like I'll say that I used to do impressive things, except for Andrew's like really doing amazing stuff.
I was like, wait, he's running the race.
Yeah, he's running the race. No, I'm just going to share Andrew's posts. So when we're at the gym, Joao, he had just done the clinic for Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah. He walks by and he was in the sauna with a couple of the other guys that I see there pretty regularly. And then he left and he was doing some push-ups and stuff. And one of the guys that was in the sauna was like, those young guys doing all those push-ups. He's like, what is he trying to prove? I was like, bro, that guy got nothing to prove. Also, don't say that to him out loud. And I showed him,
or say it out, or tell me if you're going to, so I can have my camera ready.
I showed him the picture of him with a Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu thing, and he hits me back with this video of Kevin Hart from one of his old specials, and it was like, bro, MMA fighters are real. You don't even know about them, but they're real. And he was like, that's how I felt when you showed me pictures of Joe House. He's like, you don't even know. Just be careful. You can't talk crap to anybody anymore because MMA fighters are real. This was a big dude. I was like, yeah, yep. Yeah, that's
factual.
Yeah, that's a freak of a human right there. But all that to say, Andrew Paul, pretty awesome. I'm looking a couple of days ago.
Andrew was one of the first people that ordered, like when we launched Little Cattle Co. He was one of the first people from like our group of friends of Echelon Front and SEAL teams and everything else like that placed a legit order from Little Calico as soon as
Really?
it launched.
That's too
which
cool.
just, hey, want to support you guys, appreciate it, boom, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. I like his post from 2 days ago. Injured, good, learned, time to recover.
Yep, pretty
Like,
simple.
Super solid, dude.
Following Jocko's philosophy and adapting it to his life, which is great. I know we have like a question that before we wrap it up,
Yeah.
or any questions that you might have, but I had a funny SOP story from this morning. You know, we're talking about training and SOPs and the importance of keeping all that stuff. I actually just shared it on my Instagram. You know, though, normally my SOP for if I'm doing jiu-jitsu in the morning is I pack my bag the night before.
Okay.
Like, I have my bag where I have my shoes in there, and literally this is what I do. I put my shoes in there. I put my pair of boxer briefs on the left shoe, a pair of socks on the right shoe, and then I'll put whether it's a pair of shorts or pants folded on top of the shoes towards the toe, and then the t-shirt that I'm gonna wear or the long sleeve shirt on top of there.
Okay.
And then I'll have an additional shirt just in case. Like, so if it's a long sleeve, I'll have a t-shirt and a long sleeve. So I don't know what the weather's going to be like or if it's going to change or how long I'm going to be out throughout the day. You know, that's if like I'm not coming back. And so I'll do that. And I'll change no matter what, because there are times that I'm headed back where Amanda's like, hey, can you go by the store? And I'm like, sure. And she's like, why, what's wrong? I'm like, no, I'm good. And then she realizes that I only had jiu-jitsu gi pants and a rash guard, and I'm walking around Kroger looking like a freaking dweeb, right? Hey, I train jiu-jitsu. Like, no. Like,
At least most of the Origin pants just look like they could be pocketless pants.
Yeah, but then with the rash guard,
you just look bad to the bone.
No, I look like a dweeb. I look like a freaking nerd. Don't do that. I look like the guys that own Taekwondo stores that do that so they can advertise their school, which, hey, if that's the way you're doing it, cool. However, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm a purple belt that is not good at jiu-jitsu. I'm not trying to advertise anything.
Yeah, I look like somebody tried to put a compression shirt on an eggplant whenever,
whenever
I use those rash guards. So I try to stay covered up.
Yeah. So that's why I don't do that.
Right.
I have those clothes I change into, and then I will have my jiu-jitsu top that's folded up, my belt, heart rate monitor, rash guard, and then pants. That way in the morning, and it's like stacked in there and it's unzipped. So in the morning, I grab my boxer briefs, grab my pants, grab my rash guard, zip up the bag, good to go. And I'll also sometimes, actually most of the time, I'll have a protein shaker with 2 scoops of milk already in there dry with the creatine dry sitting in there.
Yep.
And then I'll usually buy a bottle of water from Formigas because it's cold, or I'll bring my own, put it in the fridge when I get there so it stays cold. And so as soon as I get done with training, mix that up, and I have that protein drink right away.
Ready to roll.
Do that every single time.
Time released Jocko protein.
Yep. So that's
you go chocolate peanut butter?
I do like that. I also like the strawberry, but the chocolate peanut butter is really good.
So the chocolate peanut butter, I found like I can throw it in the blender and put a banana in there.
Yep. Frozen banana.
Bro. Unreal.
Yeah.
So good.
It's really good. Mm-hmm. It's really good if you add Reese's Pieces to it, but that kind of negates the purpose of it.
The next weight gain cycle I'm on, that's what's happening.
That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. You know, it's called a power belly. That's what they call it in strongman. Like the guys that are like in the 250 plus that do the strongman competitions, they refer to it as a power belly.
They just found a positive way to
but it helps with some stuff like the log lift. Like you can extend, like if you really extend your abs against the belt, it kind of pooches up at the top so that you got a little bit of a shelf to put it on underneath your pectorals and or bird chest, depending on what you've got. There's a lot of strong men that don't have like big chests because they never train it. So, yep. I've totally taken you off topic and
just
and
trying
track
to
now.
think. I'm just like, that's really weird.
Yeah, it's a bizarre deal. But yeah, the power belly. I think that's what you should call it. You're 242, but you've got like 15 of that's power belly.
Which 242 is also my buds class.
Oh, nice.
Fun fact.
Seems like that's a weight you should maintain then, for solidarity's sake.
Increase muscle mass, lose body fat. Can you imagine if I was a ripped 242?
No, because I don't want to lust and sin. I won't imagine that.
Oh my God, bro. Knock it off. You and Mike Mitchell. I know Mike Mitchell right now is listening to this. I actually know that when Mike Mitchell listens to this, I'm going to get a text message.
For sure.
Oh, goodness.
Sure.
So that's my SOP. Because
Okay.
all I have to do, get dressed, throw a hoodie on or throw the Origin Stow jacket on,
Right.
and then roll out. Did not do it last night. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it in the morning. I'll set my alarm, do it in the morning. And so alarm goes off this morning. I get up. Actually, it was crazy. I woke up 1 minute before my alarm went off. Which I just remember and like looking at my watch. And I'm like, oh. And so I was like looking at my watch and then my alarm went off. So I turned it off. And I turned them off my phone and let the one on my watch run because it'll keep going like every 10 minutes and it's just a vibrate. And I do that to help me stay on pace for like every 10 minutes I get a little notification like to make sure I'm staying on track.
Yeah.
And so I was doing that this morning and I just, you're tired and I didn't get a full night's like as much sleep as I should have last night. And I'm just packing my stuff. So I grabbed my shoes, put them in there. Same thing, boxer briefs, boom, sock, boom, grab the pants, which again, I had to sit there and think about what pair of pants. It's like, who cares? Just grab a pair of Origin pants. Like you have all the new ones. So I just grabbed the Moabs and then grabbed this nano wool from Origin.
Yep.
And
I'm rocking the same thing.
Button
today,
up one. It's so comfortable.
Yeah, I love a good Henley.
Yeah.
Which is with the buttons. That's
Fun
what that
fact.
Yeah, when you do that, it's called a Henley. I didn't know that, but that's what it is.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yep. Apparently, it makes the shirt more handsome.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
it looks better.
Thank
with
you.
the buttons on you.
I feel more professional when there's any buttons.
You know who doesn't wear that?
Pete Robertson?
No, your twin Echo.
Oh, man.
So I guess you guys aren't twins anymore.
Well, we are twins, but we just have different styles because we want to differentiate ourselves so that
that
people
makes
stop
sense.
mistaking us for each other.
That's smart.
Yeah.
That's smart. So, so I pack all my stuff, get to the gym, and I'm getting ready to rinse off, and then head over here to meet you. And I'm changing and put my shoes out on the bench. And I'm like looking, and I'm like, why is that one like, it's like dirty or different than the other one? And then I look, 2 different pairs of shoes. I have a left shoe and I have a right shoe, but it's 2 different pairs of shoes. Very similar.
Right.
I could have gotten away with wearing them,
Right.
but I didn't. And it was just a funny little, hey, we have SOPs and checklists for a reason. It keeps people organized, it keeps people efficient, effective, and it keeps people safe. Now, this wasn't a issue. I could have wore them. I just chose not to because the shoes that I also chose to wear to Jiu-Jitsu, I can literally wear all day long also. These little reef slip-on, house shoes. But it was just a funny little reminder like, hey, don't get lazy. Like, if I would not have been lazy last night, it wouldn't have been an issue. Now, big picture is not an issue because I don't need shoes.
Sure.
Like, I don't need actual tennis shoes or running shoes or hiking shoes for what I'm doing today. But, just a funny little example of why SOPs are put in place and why you should probably stick to your SOPs and why you should not be lazy and not get complacent. So, anyways, I had 2 different pairs of shoes this morning.
Were they both the same brand of shoe?
No.
What to represent?
One was an Innovate and one was Ultra.
Oh, nice.
Very similar.
Yeah,
Literally,
very similar.
It's both the minimal.
Could you tell the difference when you were walking? Like you didn't notice until you took them off?
No, I never had them on.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I took them out of my bag and set them on. So that's the other thing.
That's
I
when
do.
you noticed.
I literally
Gotcha.
have systems for almost everything. So when I go in the locker room, I take my shoes out, put the shoes there, pull the boxer briefs out, pull the socks out, take the pants, the shirt, get my, if I'm gonna rinse off in the shower, get my those little defensive body wipes as well, wipe down as well. And then it was like, because the right shoe, the Ultra, it's the innovates are black. The ultras are like black and gray.
Yep.
So they look lighter than the innovates. And so it looked like they were dusty. Like I had been in a gravel parking lot.
Right.
So
Which is where I live. Our whole thing is a gravel parking lot. Yeah, so I get it.
Yeah, it's like the Marty B's parking lot or your parking lot. So yeah. Anyways, so silly story, stupid story. But you know what's funny is I posted that and I've already gotten more traction, comments, likes, and shares from that video than some of my other most recent just regular posts because people like actually I think maybe relate to it or they're just like having fun with it, making fun of me, which I'm fine with.
I don't think it's the second thing, man, and we can kind of wrap on this, is that one of the things that we get commented on most often on the podcast is how much people appreciate seeing you being genuine and authentic. And I was talking to a guy, good grief, what was it, 2 days ago. And his name's David Baker. He is a judge on Forged in Fire. He's a historic weapons recreation expert. And he had just done a ton of stuff. The show Forged in Fire has been, an incredible success. And over the course of the last few years, he's become a friend because of another podcast that I used to do. And so David and I were talking, and one of the things he was saying is that more often than not, like he's got hundreds of thousands of followers on his social media, and the videos that he gets the most traction on are not the ones where he's like forging blades. They're not the ones where he's like smithing or anything like that, or even giving lessons and advice. It's the ones where he's just talking about the things that are going on in his life. And what he was talking about, we've experienced on the show as well. And what he has heard from the people at the History Channel and A&E who are kind of helping him with his social media, they're like, people want to know who you are and they want something to relate to. When you're talking about the things in life that you're going through, the mistakes that you made, or the little SOPs that you don't execute on, that's the stuff that they see. And they're like, hey, you know what? Unlike all of my friends who are trying their best to put forth this idealistic perspective of who they are on social media, this person that I admire is putting out something where he is showing or she is showing, hey, I'm not perfect. And that our friends and our audience relate to that so much more because they look at that and they're like, you know what? I appreciate him being genuine. And it gives them the courage to go and to do the same thing somewhere in their life, whether it's admitting a mistake or taking ownership of something that, they realized was a failing on their part, of those kinds of things. And we talked about this a little bit. Jamie Cochran makes this point when she's talking about reading Jocko and Leif's manuscript for the first time before it became the book Extreme Ownership, was they talked about the mistakes that they made. And I think more than anything, that's the reason so many people relate to what you guys are doing at Echelon Front, why so many people enjoy Jocko's podcast and enjoy our podcast and the stuff that Jocko and Dave do together and all of that stuff, is because y'all aren't trying to pretend like you've got everything figured out and you did everything right. You're literally, I'm looking at the video, you're showing two different shoes. You're just like holding them. I'm like, hey, these are the two different shoes.
The comments are awesome.
Yeah.
Like, let's see some of these real quick. Laughing 100%. Go harder, go barefoot. Absolutely right. From land of the _free _home of the brave. He comments on all of our stuff consistently, which is awesome.
Yep.
Absolutely right, JP. Do things such as preparing the day before. Small things make a big difference in terms of time efficiency. 100%. My buddy, the _OS _boss, that stands for Outdoor Solutions. That's actually one of the companies I would help teach long range shooting with.
Oh, that's cool.
They help hunters get prepared for hunts through long range shooting. And he's also got a farm to table thing that he does where you go out hunting. So they'll teach long range shooting, you'll go out hunting, and then they show you how to prepare the food.
That's pretty cool.
Pretty cool experience. Anyways, yeah, he goes, my buddy Greg with that, he goes, I won't tell anyone, but you should just wear them. And then Ted Gates USA, he just shows the masterclass picture or GIF of Jocko going like this, which Ted is going to come be a guest on our podcast.
Nice.
legit jiu-jitsu competitor. Brian, wear them. Let it be a reminder of your lack of discipline throughout the day. And if somebody asks, tell them your situation so that they can learn too, which is, I love that. Actually did that at an FTX. Forgot my rain gear. And it was cold, damp, raining, like this, the miserable cold. And I was talking to Amanda. I'm like, guess what I forgot? She's like, belt or rain gear? I'm like, rain gear. I don't forget a belt anymore because I have enough belts that I literally just have a belt in every one of my travel bags to where no matter what, I'm going to have a belt.
Right. That makes sense. Right, because it doesn't matter what you're wearing. You probably do need to keep your pants up.
No matter what.
Yeah.
And we tuck our shirts in, so wearing a belt I need. So there's a few times I'd forgotten a belt. And it was like, and then you're going by Target to get a belt. So anyways, but it was rain gear, and she's like, oh, you're going to go? And I'm like, no, I'm going to make myself suffer. And I was cold and miserable all day long. And Dave Burke and I actually use that in the debrief as an example of SOPs. And then Kirk Weatherby, he always comments on Instagram and on YouTube as well.
Yeah, he's a stud too.
Awesome. That is awesome and hilarious. I guess you are human like the rest of us. LOL. Have a great day, brother. My buddy George, Claire. Kids do it. Start the trend. Sabio, BJJ, Sabio. I've done it before, black and blue, wore them for the day, have not done the same since. My buddy Michael Peterson, but did you shower before the morning roll? He obviously listens to the podcast about, we're talking about how often I shower and why. Let's see, Game Taker,
so
Hunt
much
Fish,
showering.
Hilarious, got to own up, wear them all day. Founder AR, Founder Arms Inc.
Ooh, all right, that's cool.
Smiley face. Let's see what their profile is about. Founder Arms Inc. Love God, love people, leave a legacy. Store opening soon in the Brainerd Lakes area. We host matches, classes, and sell freedom-saving tools. Dude, let's go.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Founder Arms Inc. And then someone else is like, good. Boom, boom, boom. Experiment of the day. How many people will notice and speak up? I bet you nobody would have noticed.
I bet you nobody would have spoken up if they did notice.
100. I bet you that's
for
what it
sure.
is. SOPs, baby. JP's human too. Wear 'em. You fashion icon. Adam the specimen. He is actually one of the resident surgeons that my sister has been operating under as she's doing her residency.
Yeah.
She did her interview with him, and
I just love the idea that you're a fashion icon.
No.
I think of Tommy Hilfiger, Ralph Lauren, JP Dinnell.
my buddy Quentin Lovejoy. Passable. Besides, everyone stares at the beauty up top, not at your feet.
That's exactly right. Your eyes are up here.
AZ_Arizonian. I'm more of a SOG over SOP guy, which gets me into trouble from time and time.
What's a
standard operating guidelines?
Oh, okay.
Which, gives you some flexibility. But I don't
I
understand.
don't have any flexibility at all.
Yeah,
I've seen you
try to warm up
Shut
in
up.
jiu-jitsu. Dennis from Origin.
Bad.
Dennis_Origin. I think you should wear them. The reminder. And then Dan O'Leary, just praying hands. He's also Jesse Rembert, bro. Yeah. Jen Strasburger laughing at me. Sadie laughing at me. She works at Josh's fitness kickboxing gym. Nathan Waits, coach. I've had this happen too many times, so now I pack my car. Dude, late night crew, Dave. Go harder, go barefoot.
There you go.
Someone's like NFS, which for no freaking slack. Laughing faces. Ackley Outdoors. I do the same thing every Sunday before getting on a plane. Monday morning, got complacent once and forgot my wallet.
Oh no!
Complacency kills. Keep crushing it. From Tom. Journey.rod.jiu-jitsu. Man, that's setting up a trend moment right there. Somebody else laughing. A major key is preparation. Oh, another dude. Dude, I've done that with work boots as a young apprentice on the job. I stopped getting dressed.
No.
I stopped getting dressed in the dark after that one.
No joke.
And then I can't. Rich Hadborn. I don't know. Definitely wear them. Been there before. Here in the Northeast, the gym requires indoor shoes to be worn, but not worn during the winter. I forgot my training shoes one day. Had to train in socks as a reminder. That's amazing. And then I don't know why Instagram hid this comment from Mikey Lambrich. It had a seal. It says seal problems with a flip-flop, which was awesome. But I don't know why Instagram decided to hide that. But yeah, so that was fun. Fun little thing to make fun of myself about. Obviously, it's not an issue at all.
And the comments have kind of shown like, hey, JP makes mistakes too. Hey, we're all human. Hey, do this. And even the ones that are a little sarcastic.
I love them. Yes.
Yeah, but they show like, hey, you know what? This was a cool thing because it's something that a lot of people have done, and it's showing that you're not perfect, which is the absolute antithesis of what most people are trying to do on social media. So I also have to say, like, as your friend, I really appreciate those kind of things about you. Like the text message I got last night, we're just like, hey, I suck. I totally like whatever.
Bro,
but those things,
that's unacceptable. That's actually,
you just need to roll that back. Just calm down, okay? And
stay
go? 4 feet away from me to where you can't reach me. I'm not faster than you today. But like those are the kind of things though that build friendship and relationship and show authenticity and just like what a genuine and incredible guy you are. And I think that's one of the reasons why so many people that listen to our podcast can relate to you, because you are just who you are. And it's one of the coolest things about getting to be your friend. So thanks, man.
You're making me uncomfortable. So with that,
got him.
Really. All right. So as always, thank you for all the support you guys give us by listening. Sharing and subscribing and commenting. If you want to follow us on social media, I am at JP Dinnell, 2 N's, 2 L's. That's how Jocko remembered it, because Seth had to correct him one time, because I guess he spelled it Dinnel, and Seth was like, hey, 2 N's, 2 L's. And Jocko's like, roger that, got it. Lucas is at LUCASPINCKARD. Yep. Make sure you are also following Echelon Front. We are at Echelon Front. You could go to echelonfront.com. That's ECHELONFRONT.com. Would hope and love to see you at a future event. I know we just got done with our individual FTXs. When you are listening to this in a week or two, we will be at the Battlefield Review in Gettysburg. We have the muster coming up in May in Nashville. I believe it's May 2nd and 3rd. That's going to be absolutely incredible in Nashville. We are over 80% sold out.
Whoa.
Yeah. So,
dang.
And then we're back here in Dallas in October. And also we have FTX 14 up on the website right now. That's a 2-day individual FTX here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in September, first week of September.
Okay.
So if you guys want to check that out, go to echelonfront.com, click on the event, see what we have going on. Also, if you want to check out Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, you can go to Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu_USA on Instagram. It's a ministry that I'm a part of with Isaac Tau-Effa, Josh Rosberger, Stephen Little. We also have a podcast that we do. Those come out every Tuesday, and we have live events that we host at different gyms about every 6 weeks. We'd like to try to do them once a month, but we're right now about every 6 weeks, where we start off with a free jiu-jitsu seminar. Somebody shares their testimony. We offer up prayers. We have Bibles for people, and then we also open it up to open mat and just get some awesome hard training. We always have Jocko Fuels at those events, and it's just an amazing time. You've been to one, and they're awesome.
They're freaking cool.
They're great. Always usually about 100 people at those Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu seminars, which has been awesome.
Yeah,
the last one
it's
we
been
had a
running
good
about.
amount.
Yeah, it's been running about that. And now that, particularly now that Formiga's got the bigger place, when we do stuff there, we're going to be able to get lots of.
100%.
Though we need to reserve a spot on the old man mat for us.
Yes, that's going to happen. Also partner with the Texas Beef Company that you guys heard about last week when I had my best friend and business partner Stephen Little on the podcast. We talked about Little Cattle Co. You can follow us on Instagram at Little Cattle Co. That's LITTLECATTLE Our website is littlecattle.co. It's our name, but as a website, we deliver beef anywhere in the lower 48. We can also send boxes of beef to your customers and clients if you're looking for unique ways to show them appreciation. I know my buddy Michael Peterson has done that. My buddy Scott, who's also one of my clients at Echelon Front, has also done that. Also, Lance, we appreciate you. You keep doing that as well for your customers and friends and family members. So we appreciate all the support you guys have given us. Also, lastly, a partner with my other best friend, Josh Schrausberger, for a printing company called On the Path Printing. We're on Instagram. You can check us out on the Path. And, if also another little thing that you guys want to check out, Bruiser Arms.
Ooh.
You can find us on Instagram. It's a business that Leif, Jocko, and I started called Bruiser Arms. That's all I'm going to say for
the
now.
The logo is freaking sick.
Well, you should see the half-face blades that he just got in with half that logo engraved on the half-face blade. I'll show you. It's
Let me just.
I got
$5 right now.
I got $5.
Give me one of those. I got about $3.50.
I got $3.50 for you. It's unreal. But so you can check that out on Instagram as well. Also want to thank all the support that Origin and Jocko Fuel has been giving us over the years. Just absolutely incredible what Origin is doing. Founded by Pete Roberts, Amanda Roberts. Started in the woods of Maine, cut down the trees on their property to build a factory. Found the last loom in America. Brought it back to life. Found the knowledge. Brought the knowledge internally. Disseminated the knowledge, has grown and expanded that company to where not only are they just doing 100% American-made Jiu-Jitsu gis and rash guards, they also are doing jeans and other types of pants. I have the Moab pant that I have on right now, which is like a hybrid Versa pant where it's like an awesome outdoor hiking, camping, working, horseback riding, just going to the grocery store, throwing head kicks, doing back squats, whatever you want. And these pants are incredible. The Versa Lights are legitimately the most comfortable pant I have ever worn in my life. I mean, I could wear that pant every single day for the rest of my life. Travel, speaking, work, whatever. You want to go golfing, you want to go to church, you need to go do some jiu-jitsu. I mean, whatever. You can literally do these pants. They have the Versas, which are a little thicker, which are incredible. And then the Nylock field pant and the Nylock straight. All the pants from Origin it's unreal. It's absolutely insane what they've done. Go to originusa.com to check it out. Also go to jockofuel.com to check out some of the supplements they have. The cleanest energy drink out on the market. They just launched their magnesium that they have. They also have the brain power. They have just testosterone boosters, joint warfare, krill oil, time war, all the things that they have is absolutely insane. So you want to check it out, go to jockofuel.com. And as always, thank you for supporting our podcast by listening. And, those of you that use my code for those businesses, I appreciate that because I'm able to bring that back here to the podcast. As we close it out, I just want to remind you to go to war with complacency. I know that story I shared about like 2 different pairs of shoes isn't a big deal. It's not a big deal. It literally impacts my life at almost 0% today, but it was a good reminder. It was a good reminder for me to not get complacent, to not be lazy, to stick to my SOPs, the checklist that I have put in place, and also to evaluate those checklists and those SOPs to make sure that they're efficient, they're effective, and find ways to make them better. So I encourage you to do the same thing. And as always, thank you for listening, supporting. I hope you guys have a great day. God bless you guys all. This has been the JP Dinnell Podcast, episode 27.